talking about just communication skills, which is so very commonly heard. Why have I added this word effective uh, preceding the word communication skills and also at workplace? For the reason because that's the demand of the dynamism of the business world in the current times, in contemporary times. No longer we talk about basics of communication skills and all of that, what communication skills are and all of that. So that is pretty redundant because that was some 2 decades back when we were still, not, uh, we didn't have much understanding of what communication skills are. So that was the time when we had the need to talk about communication skills. Now that everybody knows what communication skills are, now it is important and pertinent to understand how to make it more effective at workplace, definitely for the success of business as well as person. So, yes, because communication is that basic need which solves and resolves all problems, which leads you ahead of time, and it makes you, you know, successful at work. So, the essential discussion points through this session, the session one would be essential management skills. What are those? Effective communication skills. How to become an effective communicator. Then there are various models of effective communication. What is oratory skills? What are the barriers in communication? How to overcome those? And what is the significance of active listening in effective skills? And towards the end, we're going to talk about various communication styles and what ideally should be one that we train ourselves into. So, these would be the various discussion points in this session. So, hope we are all on the same platform to take the journey forth. Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Yes.
Also, to make it more interactive, because when we are talking about communication skills, then it has to be a two-way process instead of one way. We understand that communication will happen between amongst people and not just one person doing it. So I would really request you all, I'll be using a few interactive tools. So I would really request you all to proactively participate in that so that we can see our own responses, our own understanding. What as of today we understand of whatever the questions being posed there, and together we'll learn from that and move beyond. So, first and foremost, let's just have some points to ponder. What are the essential skills required to be successful at your workplace? So, we need to start thinking on this. If somebody could give me an input, I'll just take one input here to begin with. For the very first question, what are the essential skills required to be successful at your workplace?
You must be a good communicator.
A good communicator.
Ma'am, good
Is
soft skills.
good soft skills. Okay, then are soft skills really important? You said good soft skills. So do you think
Yes,
soft skills are really important?
yes, ma'am. That includes communication. How do you interact with people? How are your gestures with the people?
Could you be a little louder, please?
Ma'am, I'm saying like soft skills include major part that roles play is the communication that we do with the other.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right.
So
Writing skills is also included in this.
writing skills. Why do you say so?
Ma'am, if we have to justify or if we have to give some presentation or a mail communication, something like that, so we have to be very cautious about by writing, the things, and it is very important us to mention each and everything about the content that you are writing, and somebody can easily understand. So writing is also a part of the communication skills, I suppose.
Absolutely, absolutely. So written communication is equally important when we talk about communication skills as a whole. So for the reason as you've just said, because whenever we write something, maybe a presentation or maybe a simple communication at your workplace, it has to be very clear, crystal clear, and precise. So that is how effective writing skills also are very important. Yeah. So in the sessions ahead, we're going to discuss about various writing styles and business writing, so and all also. Yeah. So what do you think? We're talking about soft skills. We are talking about the skills required at workplace. Which is the most seminal one? What do you think? Which is the most seminal one in your understanding?
For uh, for effective communication, I think both are very essential because you need to have a good communication skill in order to deliver your thoughts clearly. But at the same time, you have to have soft skills in order to make it more understandable and approachable for the other person. So I think it's both of them are very much required.
Okay. Okay, very well. So according to you, both are equally important. And be it we talk about communication or we talk about soft skills at large. So yeah, so both are important. Well enough. So taking in consideration to your points, we'll move further and we'll see how it goes. So now is the time when we log into menti.com. Please log into menti.com. On Google, just enter menti.com. And once you are in the session, menti.com, please take to this passcode, menti.com. Hope you are able to.
Yes, madam. It is
So
what
the
to
passcode is 4516 4516.
just wait one.
Surely, please.
4.
516
Okay.
78
Seven eight
117.
7817. Okay.
Yes, please. Are you able to?
Yeah.
There's a question posed there. Essential management skills. What, in your understanding, are the essential management skills? So
Yes.
start entering your responses, please.
Learners, if I request to keep on mute if you're not speaking. Hello.
If your partner couldn't hear you,
Ma'am, I'm just requesting the learners if they're not speaking to put on mute so that.
surely, surely, surely.
What was the code, madam?
I just repeat it, please. 45167817. Is this screen visible? Wherein you see this question posed, essential management skills.
Yes, ma'am.
So please start entering your responses. Are you able to?
Yes, ma'am.
Sure. So what, according to you, are the essential management skills that we need to possess? Because we are taking to a management degree program. Decision making, problem solving, leadership, time management, emotional intelligence, communication, soft skills. Soft skills is quite an umbrella term. We can get into the details of that also. What in soft skills we are talking about? Critical thinking.
Ma'am, hello.
Yes, please.
Captain Ajay is again asking for code. I think that's
I'll
45.
repeat code 45167817. Very well. Assertive communication, responsible behavior. Interesting. That's very interesting. Gestures,
Yeah, thank
openness,
you. I got it.
cultural knowledge, cross-cultural knowledge. Definitely yes. Choice of words, how you say it. Absolutely. Ask questions. Very important. To be a good team leader, motivational skills. Yes, very well. Very interesting responses are coming up. Channel. Somebody has written channel. If you could explain me in the meantime, what do you mean by channel? Whoever has written, if you could just unmute and explain what we understand from it, please. Azhar?
Sorry, ma'am. Actually, the mentee.com I had just entered, and after that, what to do? Like, we need to
So,
submit our responses.
responses. So, as to what you understand, what are essential management skills? Essential management skills. Whatever responses do you think befit the question?
Yes, I wrote that word channel.
Okay.
Example, if your preferred mode of communication or channel is telephone, and
Yeah.
if you're responding to them through email, that would be again become a barrier for the communication.
All right. Very well. Very well. So, the most suitable channel of communication. So, what's meant to say was that if there's an email, respond it via an email rather than maybe WhatsApping or stuff. Am I right? This is what you meant?
Yeah, always a way. First, they reach out on email and they want you to contact them through phone because internet reception is not there.
Yeah.
So they want a local phone to be used,
Yeah.
whatever it is, or
Very,
vice versa.
very well. So let's freeze the responses for a while and take a look at the responses which have shown up here. My screen is visible to everybody.
Yeah.
So just take a quick look at the kind of responses which have come up, that what are those essential management skills that we need to possess. And I'm like this is whole some of the range that we have talked about. Interpersonal skills are there, communication skills that commonly we do here. There's something called as integrity, somebody has responded. Attire, definitely yes, how you present yourself, self-presentation. Then choice of words, so the way you say, work ethics are very important. Then problem solving, decision making, critical thinking, to be a good team worker, cross cultural knowledge or being effective at that. Lead by example. So again, that comes under leadership skills. Listening skills also. So these are the various responses which have come from you. Adaptability is a very interesting one because trust me, that's a big challenge. Adaptability, not many understand and not many take to it as well. So, there are times when we speak about something, but we don't really practice that. So, yes, whatever we say here, we need to practice, and these are certain skills which are required, and these we can term them as life skills. They're very important. No book teaches us so as to say this, but in this particular course, that is business strategic communication or business communication, we'll be covering by and large almost everything written here, the responses, you know, endorsed by you. So we're going to cover by and large everything in one form or the other, but yes, we are going to cover that. So these are the certain essential management skills that are required to be very, very effective at our workplace. Now, going back to our presentation. So let me just go back to our presentation, please. Please let me know if my presentation screen is visible to you. Is it? Or is that earlier screen still there?
No, no, madam. Visible.
It's
Visible?
visible.
Yeah. So this is what we have responded to, and we have seen our own responses, our own understanding before getting into the, the course formally. But that is what our, as of now, the understanding that we have. Now, we have put them into various clusters, and the top 10 management skills that anybody would need to be successful at workplace is what? Teamwork, This is what we saw there in different expressions, though, but then yes, we saw there. Leadership skills. This is something I think did not come up. However, yes, entrepreneurship. Now, even if we are in a job, but entrepreneurship, this kind of a skill is still required in some form or the other. Do you create your own projects? How well do you take your projects? How well do you construct it and lead it? Yes, conflict management we did see there. Negotiation, yes, in some of the other expression we saw there, negotiation skills are very, very important because whenever we are dealing with our clients or even in our team, in our department, some hidden negotiation skills do work. Yes. So, yes, that's there. Just give me 1 second. Okay. Then strategic thinking. So, there was creative thinking was there. So, strategic thinking. How do you think out of the box? How do you think differently from others? Then managing the project, whatever project you're working at, time management, adaptability was there, and communication. However, communication, just take a look at these 10 once again. I'm taking to the previous slide as well. Please take a look at all these 10 skills: teamwork, leadership, entrepreneurship, conflict management, negotiation, strategic thinking, project management, time management, adaptability, and communication. So, these 10 skills broadly. What do you think? What is the role of communication in the rest 9 that we have talked about here? Could I have some responses, please? You may please unmute yourself.
Communication is very, very important.
Okay. So, does
First
it play a role in the other 9 that we have talked about?
part of it.
Okay. Part
Madam,
of,
all other are the part of communication. If your communication is not good, you can't even do the project management. You can't do even strategic thinking. Nothing you can without communication. It is totally fail.
absolutely, absolutely correct. Absolutely. Adaptability, strategic thinking, time management, teamwork, anything, any of these 9 you talk about, ultimately we have to communicate. And how effectively we communicate, we'll be more effective at these skills. So with now we go back to the question which was posed on one of the slides, which is the most seminal one. Now what you say, which is the most seminal one?
Communication.
Definitely, definitely. So if our communication, if we are very effective at it, we are very deft at it, we are going to make the most of the other skills that we possess. Yes. So now see if when we're talking about effective communication, so these are 7, for effective leadership. Now we are getting into more of leadership skills because this particular course is going to talk more of effective leadership communication, right? So what are those 7 communication skills which are very essential for effective leadership skills? That is interpersonal communication. Yes, we understand when we are at work or in our social circle also, when we are in a personal capacity also, personal or professional life, wherever, interpersonal communication plays a huge role. How we communicate with others, how we take to their communication, are we open to their communication, or we are close towards them, we are very critical about that, or we really give a room to others communication and understand it and make a win-win. So that is what interpersonal communication. Then leadership storytelling, how do we make it more impactful by giving analogies, anecdotes, telling some stories, which are life experiences, so as to make the other person. That is where negotiation skills or the power of persuasion comes in place, persuasive speaking. That comes in place when we use a lot of storytelling into our communication, but such storytelling which the audience or the listener can relate to, not something which is unheard of, out of his context. It should be in context, and it should be something which he can easily relate to. So such storytelling is important. then comprehension and synthesis. So when we are doing interpersonal communication, unless we comprehend what the other person says, so it's rightly said, understand to be understood. We're going to talk about in some of the slides ahead. So understand to be understood. So if we are able to comprehend the other person, what he says, and synthesize what he has said, and then come up with the response, rather than, if we do not comprehend and synthesize, what happens? We react. But if we comprehend and synthesize, then we respond. So there's a huge difference between reaction and response. If I'm not mistaken, Dilbaksa, I believe we do have some defense personnel on the session also. Yes, sir.
Pardon me, ma'am.
I said we do have some defense personnel on the session also.
Yes, yes, ma'am.
So you'll be able to relate to what I'm giving an example. Whenever there's a disaster, the defense responds to that. Recently, there were floods in Punjab, in Haryana, and Himachal. So, army came to response, relief, yes, and they did not react to it. So, that is the difference between reaction, and that is what we need to practice to be an effective leader or an effective communicator in a daily life. That's not only a mandate for a particular organization to work in the way, it actually should be the style, it should be the lifestyle of anybody and everybody. And if on our workplace we respond rather react, we'll be definitely way more successful at our work than, in case we are reacting. Then communicating concisely. Then non-verbal communication. I saw written on that menti.com, gestures, attire. And non-verbal communication is in the very next session, next Sunday that we are doing the session 2. We are talking about non-verbal communication in detail, what all non-verbal communication comprises. So we're going to talk about that. So non-verbal communication is very, very significant. Then active listening, or if listening very carefully to others is very important, because if we do not listen carefully, if we are merely hearing to others, then we are going to react rather than respond. And affirmation skills, those are very important. Affirmation skills do not mean at all that we are just surrendering to the other person's say, not at all. Affirmation says that yes, I'm listening to you. However, I'm going to comprehend it and synthesize it carefully, and then take a call what I think is most apt in the situation, given said situation. So
Pardon
this,
me. Hello.
yes,
Pardon
please.
me. Ma'am, Captain Ajay want to say something. I think he's
Please,
raising.
please, please. Because Dilbag sir, the issue with me is I can only see my presentation. I
Okay.
cannot see if
Sure.
anybody is raising hands. So if you will
Sure.
prompt, I
Sure.
will
Sure.
be a lot of help to me. Yes, sir, please. Ajay,
Uh, yes, ma'am.
yes,
Regarding this effective leadership,
yes,
okay, that's a very good thing that we normally think about communication skills only among the common people. But of
yes,
course, for a leadership also, there is effective leadership के लिए essential communication skills. What 7 points you gave is very nice.
yes,
If someone doesn't have that interpersonal communication skills,
yes.
so can you please go over all these 7 lists that somebody is not having? How can he put his head into it and improve it, or else he can communicate? Because all of the persons are not having a same kind of communication skills.
I understand. I completely understand.
So these are the things what you have presented it. Okay, these are the requirements. So
Yeah,
can you please go over the what if someone doesn't have, then how do we improve that session, or else improve that person to come into these
absolutely.
7 points?
Absolutely. I will.
Or,
Uh,
ma'am, you can share some case studies.
I will. I will definitely. Uh, if you allow me, at this point in time, I'll talk about what are the essentials. And interpersonal communication is wholesome of a session in one of the coming sessions. So I would feel better, like I said, non-verbal communication is just the next second session, like the next Sunday. So like that, leadership communication, interpersonal communication, all of these are the sessions which are coming ahead, and they are in depth. So it would be better if we touch upon them there. Like it will not be touching upon them. It will be talking and discussing about them in detail. Should that be fine with everybody?
Yeah, madam, that will be fine.
Because if I do it
Fine,
now,
fine, madam.
yeah, I'll
Fine.
deviate from. This is just a curtain raiser. Then I'll deviate from what effective communication skills are. So let me just stay on that and. Uh, Coming sessions, yes, we are talking about this. Thank you so much. Yes, moving ahead. So, affirmation skills, as I said, doesn't mean that we just surrender to the other person's whims and fancies. It's about uh, making the person believe and understand that, yes, I am listening to you. However, I'll comprehend and synthesize. So, that is what. Yes. So, now it's important when we are talking about effective communication skills, it's important to walk your talk. If I say I do this, as I said, adaptability was one of the responses on menti.com by one of you. So we may talk about adaptability, but do we practice it? We may talk about teamwork, but do we practice it factually? So it is important to walk our talk. So that's really really important, and the objectives are uh, I'm like, what are the attributes to become an effective communicator? We're going to talk about that. So, see here, you said written communication. Yes, this written communication, oral, then conflict management, negotiation, influencing, presentation, language, what kind of language, what to say, when to say, who to say. So, what's the role of communication is very important to understand. Then, power of communication. What is the power of communication? Because communication is just not talking about something, it has to have power in it. Are you able to convince the other person? That is what the power of communication is. Are you able to, at least take them on the, on the path of thinking, pondering over what the other person's values and attitude or behavior is, and to what extent do they think that what is a better way of doing things? Then there are various communication models that we're going to discuss in this, and barriers in communication, and what are those techniques to overcome those barriers is what we're going to discuss in this session. So once again, if you take to menti.com with the same passcode, there was yet another slide, another question. What are the factors of effective communication? Menti.com. What are the factors of effective communication? The same passcode 45167817.
What is the question?
What are the essentials? What are the factors of effective communication? Factors of effective communication. Passcode is 4516. I'm just opening up the slide for you. Four five one six 7817. So that we are talking about effective communication skills. What do you think are the factors? What would make communication effective? Let's say it like this. Reading, okay. Clarity, valuable inputs, okay. Listening, active listening, yes please. Timely information, very very important actually. Respond and not react, yes. Spoken. Language grasp, understand the need, yes please. Clear words, presenting, okay. Precise, very important, okay. use gestures, hands. Okay. Respect, yes, that mutual respect is very important. It shouldn't be my way or highway, it should be the mutual respect. Good rate of speech, absolutely. Neither too slow nor too fast, because English is never spoken very fast. Patience, very important. Conciseness, yes. Confidence, yes. Clear and precise. Okay, we'll freeze it here. We'll freeze it here. Just quickly take to your responses. Quickly take a look at your responses. Last 30 seconds, and then we move back to the presentation. Okay, pitch variables, very, very good input there. Okay, comprehension. Okay, so very good responses there. We're going back to the session. Please do confirm me if my presentation is visible now.
Yes, madam.
Okay. So yes, the responses all of you have given are actually that's a very good input there. So simple expressions, somebody did write simple words. Why simple expressions? See, it shouldn't. The audience or the listener shouldn't feel the need of carrying a dictionary with them all the time. If we remember, I mean, like I clearly remember when I was as a child in the newspaper, the most simple English was used. Nowadays, they play a prank with a lot of difficult words, and to the extent they just pick up a word, find a synonym of it which sounds most difficult or most unheard of, they replace it with the word, which is the very wrong way of doing it for the reason because every synonym has a particular action in a particular context only it can be used. So without getting into deeper understanding of the synonym, that is what it is used, whether it is used as an adjective, it is used as
Madam, voice is not coming.
my voice is not coming. Am I audible?
Dilbagji, voice is not coming.
Dilbag sir, am I audible?
Now it's okay.
Okay, okay, great. So yes, simple words are very, very important for the reason so that a common person can understand easily that what is said. Because if the person is not able to understand what is said, what will he comprehend? What will he synthesize? Then how do we expect him responding? So that will be a communication failure completely. So that is how simple expressions are very important. Then effective non-verbal communication is very important, which we are going to talk about in the next session. Cultural sensitivity is very important. However, I am not going to deal with this because this is as another subject as a whole, which I think I don't know in which semester of yours, but it is there definitely in your entire program. So I'll not touch upon it. Checking for understanding. I'll just sensitize you on cultural sensitivity, what it is, because every culture has different, non-verbal, gestures or the kind of words used are different. The way it is spoken is different. So unless we have sensitivity towards that, I'll give you an analogy of this. So this was this German cohort visiting our university for a summer exchange program, and before coming, they read about Indian culture. And what they read was that in India, when somebody, I mean, like the host offers you something to eat, you don't just grab it at the very first instance. They repeat it maybe twice or thrice. It's only then that is how it is found courteous and decent. Only then you take it. However, what we read about the German culture, because that was the very first time that they were visiting us, so we wanted to know them better. So, what we read about them was that they are very straightforward people. If they mean it, they mean it. So, if they say no, so don't offer them twice because they feel very intimidated. So what happened when they were received here at breakfast? They were offered something. They said no, thinking that that was how the Indian culture was, and we thought how the German culture was. They were good without having anything, and not to intimidate them. So the Indian partners did not offer them again, and they did not say it yes on the very first what their culture is, trying to adapt to Indian culture being in India. And later at lunch hour, then when they became more comfortable and friendly, and that is when they shared the experience that we went hungry on our tummies for the reason because we had read this. So then the people here, they said that in fact we had read that unless they are very straightforward, so if they have said no, so don't intimidate it again. So that is important to have that intercultural, cross-cultural understanding and being sensitive towards their needs. So, checking for understanding what you have spoken, it's important to understand. It's important to check back with the audience, with your listeners. Have they understood what you have said? Were you clear enough? Or they are still in doubt, or maybe they have not got what exactly you wanted to say. Then it's important for seeking for participation, because communication, if it's just one-sided, it'll fall flat, because then that means it's just a monologue. What I think. I'm just going on endlessly. But I want my participants, I want my audience to also say what they have an understanding of what is being talked about. So it is important, and that is how you collaborate, and then creative thinking takes place. So it is important to seek participation. One is this reason. Second is when you seek for participation, you make them the passive participants of your communication. Now, seeking for participation may not always mean that maybe you're addressing an audience, you're giving a presentation or whatever. So, may not always mean that you definitely want an answer from them, but you may throw some brainstorming questions on them, so as to you take them into as passive participation, so that at least they start pondering over what is being said. So that is where you hook your audience, and they do not I mean, like, they will not lose their interest in what is being said, because that will be a communication failure. Then is effective question techniques, to use effective question techniques. So whenever we are doing some presentations or addressing an audience, so just through a few questions, you may seek for responses, you may not seek for responses, depending on the need of the situation. Should you need the responses, do ask them to respond actively. Should you think, no, it's just triggering that idea in their minds, just brainstorming them on, and bringing them on the same platform so as to they can understand you better. So just throw some very triggering questions, brainstorming questions, also that you can use certain facts and data which is jarring enough, alarming data which you can, for example, let's say you're making a presentation on the male female ratio in a particular state, that there's a huge gap between the male and female ratio. So you can start with every minute or every second, this percentage of female feticide or infanticide takes place in this particular state. Hence, the ratio proportion of male is to female is this. So it's an alarming data. So what happens with such triggering, such jarring data when you present, and that's a fact based. When you present that, everybody is hooked to listen to you more. That, of course, what you're saying is quite, it's important, and it's also credit worthy that it comes with facts and basis. Then intriguing the other person, generating curiosity, so that you can use through using a storytelling, a short story, a short anecdote, a short analogy, wherein the other person's curiosity gets triggered, that what is it that is coming forth. And so that is where you draw the attention of your listener. Then it is important to summarize whatever you have said. Whatever has been said towards the fag end, summarize everything, and conclude it at a very graceful note, checking once again for the understanding if they have, or if they have anything to add there too. So, because communication cannot be complete if it's just a monologue, and it's really important to keep connecting back and forth with your audience. So, that is the technique: asking questions, triggering some curiosity and intriguing questions. So, that is the technique of connecting with your audience or checking for their understanding. So, that is how you connect with your audience when you make it more interactive. So, these are certain effective ways of making your communication very, very effective and impactful and outcome driven, because workplace communication should be outcome driven and it should be a positive outcome. So now we'll talk about what is the path of an effective communicator, how to become an effective communicator. As so asked to talk about how to become an effective at interpersonal communication, which I'll be dealing in another session. So this session, as it is dedicated to effective communication, so now is the point how to become an effective communicator. Those are the needs, but how to do that? First and foremost, listen very carefully. So develop the, that skill of active listening. When somebody is speaking, make sure that you're listening to your speaker. So not that you get busy with your person sitting next to you or on your mobile. Oh, there was an urgent call, there was an urgent message which needed to be responded then. I think anything and everything can wait when you're sitting to listen to a speaker. And it's also that respect, somebody had written respect as a factor of effective communication. So it's also a respect to the speaker, that when somebody is speaking, we pay attention to what he says. So when we pay attention, it's not only, we're going to talk about the ways of active listening further in further slides. So here I'll just talk about, it's very important to listen very, very carefully, attentively, because once you listen carefully and attentively, you understand what is being said better. And should you have any doubt in what the person has said and you have not got it clearly, you have all the, you know, uh, right to uh, ask the person and find out that what did he mean. Did he mean this? So how do we do that? Also, I'm going to talk about how do you check back for understanding. I'm going to talk about. Then, at this, before speaking or before responding to what has been said, make
Ma'am,
sure. Yes, please.
uh, Mr. Rakesh Jindal have some point to make.
Yes, please, sir. Please go ahead.
मैम एक्चुअली मेरे पास अभी कोई क्वेश्चन इस रिलेटेड, लेकिन मैं आप इसमें ना आपके आप जो बोल रहे हैं उसमें एक ऐड ऑन करना चाहता हूँ.
Please,
एक
sir.
मैंने
Go ahead. Please go
इसमें
ahead.
एक मैंने कोई ट्रेनिंग प्रोग्राम अटेंड किया था
हाँ
अपनी
जी.
कंपनी की तरफ से.
हाँ जी.
उसमें जो हमारे ट्यूटोरियल थे, उन्होंने
हाँ
कहा
जी.
कि एक जो अपनी लिसनिंग एबिलिटी इतनी होनी चाहिए कि आपके पास एक, मैं वर्ड बोलूंगा शायद थोड़ा सा गंदा भी लगे, कि आपके पास एक हाथी का कान होना चाहिए.
अच्छा जी.
मतलब कि आपकी जो लिसनिंग एबिलिटी इतनी होनी चाहिए कि आपका कान इतना बड़ा होना चाहिए, हाथी के कान जैसा बड़ा होना चाहिए आपकी, ताकि उसके अंदर सब कुछ अच्छे ढंग से आप सुन सको उसको.
आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं सर. आप बिल्कुल ठीक कह रहे हैं. So to add to this, what I always say is that God has given us 2 ears and 1 mouth. So definitely we should make double the use of our ears. That means the listening power than speaking more. However, somehow or the other, we do it the vice versa, isn't it? We tend, not everybody, I'm like, it's not uh, meant for everybody, but generally, we end up speaking more than listening. So what you are saying is absolutely right, कि हमारी listening ability इतनी होनी चाहिए कि we can listen enough, because it's never too enough to be to understand it very, very clearly. So definitely हमको सुनने की क्षमता जो हमारे अंदर है वो ज़्यादा होनी चाहिए, and we need to practice that. We need to develop that active listening habit in us, that skill in us. Definitely. Thank you for the input, sir. So then understand carefully before responding or before speaking. नहीं समझ में आया, go back, check for your understanding and then only respond. But do not jump to a conclusion. And why do we jump to a conclusion is also we're going to talk about. Speak to be understood and then respond or speak in a fashion that the other person can understand it clearly. Right? Then seek understanding before proceeding. Then move to before moving beyond. It's important for the speaker. It's his responsibility utmost to check back that whether my audience has understood what I said, and then repeat it what you said. So repeating is never verbatim. Just paraphrase, summarize, and then present. So this is how we develop ourselves as effective communicator. Yes,
Ma'am,
yes, please.
Mr. Manojit Ghosh want to say something.
Anji, please go ahead, sir. Yes, sir. Customized what, sir? Yes, yes. Okay. So now this is just effective communication and how to become effective communicator. So when you are you're talking in context or in a situation where we have to satisfy a dissatisfied customer, is this what you're saying, sir? Right? Yes. Yes. Uh-huh. Okay. Yeah. 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 Deal with the situation. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Perfectly fine. So for this again, we're going to talk about emotional intelligence, the role of emotional intelligence in communication, or the role of empathy in communication. Now, if the salesperson has gone and sold out something, maybe I would not like to use the word, but maybe faking the policies of the company. This is what I gathered from what you said, which actually may not be the policy of the company, but he has kind of, over exaggerated or false committed or whatever. And he has just, because he wanted to make a sale, so he did that. Now, definitely being a manager, the customer is going to come back to you on that. He's going to hold you up for that. That this is what was committed to me, but this is not what is being delivered to me. So, in this case, empathy and being emotionally intelligent is very, very important. You got to be, because you understood, being a manager, you understood that yes, your guy, somewhere or the other, he kind of faked the customer just to make that sale happen. Now, what best can you offer to him? How much can you go to, get him to peace and also comfort him, because it is none of his, it wasn't the customer's fault. It is the your person's fault, a person who's your employee, his fault who has overcommitted. So it becomes the responsibility of the manager then that he has to be very, very effective and sharp at empathy. First and foremost, you got to empathize enough with the customer, realize what he must have gone through. So you'll be only able to do when you are good at empathetic skills, and then using your emotional intelligence come to a win-win situation. Sir, I understand that it has caused you a lot of problem, and I really wonder that why this happened. I apologize, this shouldn't have happened. However, let me see what best I can do for you. And then, as a manager, we do have some bit of bandwidth to make certain adjustments and compensate the customer to a certain extent. But when you approach the customer with effective communication skills, using your empathetic and emotional intelligence skills in the communication, so then is when you pacify him, and he wouldn't be outraged. But if you yourself, I'm like, if I be the manager and I lack empathy, I lack emotional intelligence, right? And I say, what do? I never committed you anything. Go and talk to the salesperson who said. So that means I am lacking in my communications. For a good communicator, It is very important to be very sharp in emotional intelligence. It is very important to be empathetic enough to relate to the other person, right? Not that you can do much about it, but you got to at least empathize and at least see what best you can do in that situation. Then is when you definitely pacify the customer. And because these are all real time situations, they keep happening back and forth. So this is how you approach it. Was I able to make myself clear and address to your query? All right, great. So then the last is, before moving beyond or before getting into an action, repeat what you said and check back for their clarity. So this is how you become an effective communicator. I'll just quickly repeat it. Very carefully listen to the other person, be an active listener, then understand it thoroughly well, comprehend and synthesize. On one of the previous slides, we saw that comprehension and synthesis. Comprehend and synthesize what has been said. Have I understood it clearly? If I haven't, I need to get back to the person and check back that what did he really mean, right? Then only once you are sure that you've understood what he said, you got the message precisely and concisely, then respond. And when you respond in such a manner that it is very, again, there is clarity in your response and it's precise and concise. Then before moving further, seek for the understanding of your listener, whether he's understood you carefully, and then quickly summarize the whole thing and move beyond. So this is how you develop yourself as an effective communicator. So I'll move beyond the what is the art of delivery, coordination of brain and voice. That is important, right? Whatever the message my brain is sending to me, so it's the brain which sends the message, right? So whatever message the brain is sending to me, is my voice supporting the message? If I What I mean to say is, supporting my message means the emotion of my message. Is my voice sounding the same as what my message means? The emotion of the message is being conveyed through my voice or not? Maybe my message is requesting somebody to get me a glass of water, but my voice is very harsh and it's very curt. So do I sound being requesting or no? If it's contradictory, the communication will fall flat. So, do you think my example to you is okay for you understanding this very first point? Coordination of brain and voice?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Then correct use of voice. I remember when you were answering to menti.com, you said pitch your voice, right? So that pitching of your voice, that is intonation, the which comes under non-verbal communication. The next session we are going to detail that. So that pitching of your voice or using the correct intonation is very important. So you need to identify that, because see, a voice, we all have individual, the voice quality everybody has individual. If you have a thin voice like maybe me, I don't know, so maybe if I'm pitching it too high, it might get shrieky. So if it's getting shrieky, I need to understand my own voice. And because shrieky voice will never sound humble or polite or soft, so it'll rather be like, why are you yelling at me? That would be the reaction of my listener. Why are you yelling at me? This is how my listener is going to react. So if I know my voice might get shaky at a certain pitch, I need to modulate it, right? So you got to check your voice quality. According to that, learn how to modulate it. And while modulating your voice, while speaking, when you do that intonation of pitching and pacing and pausing, so when you do that, it depends what is the message. Are you commanding? You're giving an order to somebody? Of course, it has to be very firm. Your voice has to be firm. But firm doesn't mean that it is harsh, it is curt, it is rude. You shouldn't sound rude. Even if you're ordering, please close the door. See, English is such a polite language. Even if we are annoyed with a person, we'll always use the courtesy words. And I'm not only bragging about English, use any language. Any language can be spoken as politely and softly as we wish, you know. So, speaking any language, darwaza band kar dijiye. प्लीज दरवाजा बंद कर दीजिए. अब मेरी वॉइस फर्म है इसमें, राइट? मगर मैंने सारे पोलाइट वर्ड्स, आई हैव यूज्ड ऑल द कर्टेसी वर्ड्स देयर. मैंने किसी को रूडली नहीं बोला. आई एम नॉट सेइंग क्लोज द डोर. I did not force and throw my voice. So it remained firm, but it remained very soft at the same time, right? Or if you're requesting, so on that action word which conveys the request, your voice will go down, it'll pitch down. That is sounding humility. Please close the door. So this close has gone down. This shows that you're requesting. I'm requesting and I'm saying, please close the door. And my voice is monotone. At one tone only I've spoken it all. So it doesn't sound that I've requested. The other person will take to me that why the hell are you, ordering me or being so rude. So it's very important to make the correct use of your voice. Then is the stance and mannerism. This is what we're going to talk about in detail in nonverbal communication. That any mannerism which prevents the free use of hands for natural gestures affects your voice. One of you had written hands and gestures in menti.com responses. So definitely that's very important, because if we use open arms, my voice becomes very open and welcoming. If you just practice this, you just deliberately do this as an experiment and see. If you have closed gestures, closed arms, rigid body, keeping it very tight and close to yourself, your voice will become very rigid also. It affects your voice. It also affects to the expression of your eyes, right? Your eyes become very rigid and unwelcoming. So that is how it's important to have an open body language, which definitely we'll deal in detail. So this is where the art of delivery is, using good mannerism and stance, that is open body language, correct use of your voice, pitching and voice, pacing it according to the need, and coordination of brain and voice, right? Then is attention getting techniques. There are certain attention getting techniques. Dilbag sir, I'm afraid I'm exceeding time. Is that okay with everybody, please?
Uh,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Time is till 2, so we can.
Okay. I'll try and quickly rush through, because I think we took more time in discussing ahead. Okay. So what are the various attention getting techniques? I shared with you earlier also. Arouse that curiosity by throwing a question, by posing a fact-based data, which is an alarming one. By using a quotation, somebody's quotation which befits the situation, right? So these are by telling a story or an anecdote. So these are the various attention getting techniques. Then convey your credibility to relate to your audience. They should believe in you, what you say is right. So if you have enough knowledge of what you say, you are master of your subject, and you are talking fact based, then is where your credibility generates, right? You may start with an emotional statement wherein you connect. Emotional doesn't mean that big hue and cry. I mean, emotional is where you connect with the audience, when you give them the, when you make them understand the need of that situation. Why are we talking about this? Like we started on various questions. So that was an emotional statement. That was an emotional way of doing it. It connected that why are we talking about this topic today? Why should I sit through this session? So that need should be realized, made to realize, right? So what is your thesis statement? What is the purpose of your talk today? That thesis statement. So what are you going to tell the audience is what you got to tell them right in the beginning, so that their context setting is done, and then you move further, right? Now speak with audience, speak what the audience will like to listen to. Add a story. Just it's a summarizing part. Thought provoking, which is thought provoking enough, or any other technique which I just said. Important to be relaxed rather than getting unnerved and perturbed, and getting nervous. Not required. Just relax yourself. Interact instead of stating. So instead of making statements and just a monologue, interact with your audience in passive or active form either. So that will give you more of relaxation also, because you would have made a connect with your audience by then, and go stepwise, right? One after the other. That is how I said probably we can talk about interpersonal communication at a later stage when the time arrives. So, and then conclude impressively. That should be the key thing. So, summarize it in such a way that it's impressive. Then keep it simple and short, or let me say, keep it short and simple. Your language used, your anecdotes given should be such which are relatable, and keep it very precise and concise and simple. Right now, as I said, we'll be talking about certain communication models. So there is a 7C's model. So 7C's says credibility, concreteness, courtesy, correctness, consistency, consideration, and conciseness. How does credibility help us? If we are talking fact based, if I'm talking about something which I know, I have enough knowledge about, and I can, satisfy my people with what I say, you know, so that builds trust, the audience trust in the speaker. That is how it helps. Concreteness, so it reinforces that confidence. If you are concrete to the point what you say. Then courtesy, it is very important. I gave you various examples of being courteous.